If you've ever wondered how soldiers in World War II kept their gear alive in conditions that chewed through steel like hungry wolves, here's the twist that grabs you from the start. The trick wasn't fancy, it wasn't expensive, and it sure wasn't invented in a laboratory. It was something so ordinary, so embarrassingly simple, that modern survivalists still shake their heads at how effective it is. Rust was the silent enemy, creeping over knives, rifles, canteens, and every piece of metal they carried. Yet soldiers fought it off with nothing more than vinegar and a bit of grit. Stay with me here, because this old-school hack doesn't just remove rust. It transforms neglected metal like it's getting a second life. Let's dive into how this humble mixture became a battlefield miracle, why the science behind it actually makes sense, and how you can do it on your own gear today, no matter where you are or what you're working with. Why rust was a bigger danger than most people realize. War wasn't all gunfire and explosions. Sometimes the real threat came from quiet, creeping sabotage moisture. Soldiers marched through damp forests, slept in trenches soaked from the night before, and carried metal gear that simply couldn't escape humidity. Rust didn't wait for permission. It took every chance to eat away at steel. And once rust gets comfortable, it spreads like mold on forgotten bread. A rusty bayonet could snap, a corroded rifle bolt could jam, a rusted mess kit could become unsafe to use. Rust was more than a cosmetic issue. It could mean life or death. So when troops found a way to beat it back using something as common as vinegar, they clung to that method like treasure. Here's where things get almost unbelievable. Vinegar, yes, the same thing used in kitchens everywhere, became one of the most reliable rust fighters of the era. Its power comes from acetic acid, a mild acid strong enough to break down rust, but gentle enough not to destroy the steel underneath. Soldiers noticed this long before chemistry books explained it. They saw it work. And in war, results matter more than explanations. They soaked rusty tools, blades, and even small rifle parts in vinegar whenever they could get some. In an hour or two, the rust loosened. Leave it for longer, and the orange crust softened until it could be wiped off with cloth or scraped gently with whatever was available. The transformation felt almost magical. A useless piece of metal suddenly looked alive again. Sometimes that's all a soldier needed. One working knife, one dependable tool, one rifle bolt that actually moved when they needed it. Vinegar alone would loosen the rust, but soldiers quickly learned the real magic came from pairing it with abrasion. They didn't have modern scrub pads or stainless steel brushes, so they used whatever grit the environment gave them. Sand, cloth, dirt, a rough stone, charcoal from campfires, anything textured. The process was always the same. Soak, scrub, wipe, repeat if necessary. And every time, rust peeled off like old paint. They weren't trying to make gear look pretty, they just needed it functional. Vinegar softened the rust so the scrubbing didn't damage the metal underneath. This meant they could restore gear even when it looked hopelessly corroded. This wasn't just maintenance, it was survival strategy. Fast forward to the modern world. People still struggle with rusted knives, tools, garden equipment, camping gear, you name it. And guess what? Vinegar still works like it did 80 years ago. The chemistry hasn't changed. The results haven't changed. What has changed is that now we understand the process more clearly. Vinegar dissolves rust by reacting with iron oxide, turning it into a water-soluble compound that can be rinsed away. It's safe, cheap, and works even if you don't have electricity, special brushes, or chemical cleaners. You can take something that looks ready for the trash and bring it back to life with a bowl of vinegar and a bit of patience. This is why survivalists still teach the method. It works in the field, it works in cabins, it works in workshops, and yes, it absolutely works in emergencies. When all you have is basic supplies, this trick is pure gold. Let's break it down in the most practical way possible. Start by soaking the metal in vinegar. Any common vinegar works, even the cheap stuff, really. Submerge the item completely if you can. For larger pieces, soak cloth in vinegar and wrap it around the rusted area. Give it time. An hour for light rust and overnight for heavy rust. When the rust softens, scrub it. Use a brush if you have one, or use sand if you don't. The rust will lift off, revealing cleaner metal underneath. Rinse with clean water and dry thoroughly. And here's a pro move soldiers eventually discovered. Coat the metal afterward with a little oil. This seals the pores of the steel and slows future rust. Suddenly, you've taken something ruined and turned it into something ready for work again. World War II soldiers had one huge advantage with this technique accessibility. Vinegar was easy to find, you know. It didn't need to be carried in bulk. It didn't explode, and it didn't require mixing. It wasn't dangerous. And, well, almost every village, every camp, every supply line had some form of it. Other cleaners existed at the time, but most were either too strong, too corrosive, or simply unavailable. Vinegar was universal, and honestly, universality is survival. There's also a psychological side to this. Soldiers often faced long stretches of boredom between bursts of chaos. Cleaning gear became a ritual, something they could control, something they could rely on. Watching rust melt away under vinegar gave a sense of progress and preparedness. That mental effect can't be underestimated. When the war ended, the method didn't disappear. Veterans brought it home, farmers used it, mechanics used it, campers used it. It became one of those timeless life hacks, you know, passed down from one generation to the next because it solved a problem everyone faces at some point. Today, it's still one of the best low-budget, high-success solutions for rust removal. And now you know the story behind it, the battlefield roots, the hard lessons, the practical wisdom carved out of harsh survival. This wasn't just a hack, it was a lifeline. If you've ever doubted that simple tools can make the biggest difference, this is your reminder. Soldiers in World War II didn't have the luxury of modern cleaners, fancy coatings, or specialized kits. They had vinegar, grit, and determination. And that was enough to keep their tools, their weapons, and sometimes their lives intact. If you found this breakdown useful and you want more forgotten tricks that actually work, make sure you subscribe, share this video and help grow this channel. There's so much more to uncover from the legacy of survival, and you don't want to miss what's coming next.